I'm Matt Trainer, Product Experience Manager for AI Studio, and I'm here to talk to you today about workspaces inside of AI Studio and how to navigate inside of them. So in this particular example, I've already started a project, I've already connected data to it, and I've already defined and downloaded my workspace. So once you do that, you'll be brought to your workspace card, which you can see here on my screen. As long as you don't have to go and download all of the images and libraries that you need, which I've already done, the first time that you spin up your workspace, it should take about 15 to 40 seconds. You can see here that I've already hit the play button, so you don't have to wait for that 10 to 40 seconds while my workspace spun up. So I've already done that, and I got a message that my workspace has been started, which I can see here now that I have this little symbol that says Open Jupyter Notebook. And you can see here it opened, and now it's opened my notebook over here in Jupyter. So I can either click here on this little tab that says BERT, which is the name of my workspace, or I can click here the Jupyter button. So when I click Jupyter, it takes me to my Jupyter Notebook, which is our integrated IDE inside of AI Studio. This is the notebook view. You've got full screen and condensed view over here, so I can go ahead and full screen my screen in order to see my notebook a little bit better. Toggle back and forth between the two. Over here on the navigation pane, I can see the different data connectors that AI Studio has formed. In this case, I have all my data sets saved inside of this folder. This was a GitHub that I cloned locally onto my machine, and I started this project using locally saved data. So I can click here on the folder where my data lives. I've got a lot of different projects in here. In this case, for this particular project, I'm using a BERT model. So I've got it saved in this natural language folder. You can slide this over, make it a little bit bigger so you can read it a little bit better if you want. I've got the BERT Q&A saved right here. And here's my notebook. So I can go ahead and double click on my notebook, and it'll open it up. So here I can see my notebook. I can go ahead and edit it, make changes to it. I can run each cell individually, or I can head up here to the Run tab. I can run selected cells, or I can go ahead and run all cells. I've already ran this model, so I'm not going to make you guys wait and watch while this model runs again. All right. So that's how to navigate your data sets here on the navigation pane. Also, within your workspace view, you're going to have these different tabs across the top. So we were already on the overview. This just shows you your workspace card. You have some options here for minimal requirements and whether you want to delete it or not. You can click on over to Monitor. So Monitor, AI Studio is integrated with MLFlow and TensorBoard. So if your model has hooks into MLFlow and is registered, like I said before, we've run this model previously, and so it's registered onto MLFlow. Here you can go to the MLFlow tab, and you can see our different model runs and how they've synced up into MLFlow. If you had TensorBoard hooks into your model, you can go to TensorBoard. This particular model that I've run doesn't have any TensorBoard hooks into it, so we've got no dashboards. But if you did, you'd be able to see and do your model comparisons here in MLFlow or TensorBoard. I can then click on over to Setup and Documentation. So in Setup and Documentation, it's going to give you setup and documentation about this project. And if I go ahead and hit the Setup button here, it's going to show where my data is being brought in from and assets. So as I mentioned before, I've cloned a GitHub repository and saved it locally on my machine. So this is where you do that. I've already cloned a GitHub repo, but if I had not, you'd see a little button here that says clone. So if you've got a GitHub repo out there or access to one, you can go ahead and do that cloning here. If you've got project assets into your account, you'd see them here. I don't in this particular example, but you can go ahead and add them from here. You can also add them when you're creating your project and connecting the assets during your project creation, or you can wait and add them later on. You have the option. You've got a little file browser down here, which is basically just a file folder directory, which is that same view you saw in Jupyter, just a little bit different. I've got all my AI Studio experiments saved in here. You've got your locally saved documents, your MLFlow registries. If you've shared locally saved data sets with your team, they'll come into the share folder here. and your TensorBoard model runs as well. All right, so now if I click on over to Publish Services, after you've ran your model and you're happy with it, you can come here to Publish Services, and you can go ahead and create a new service. You can see here that I've already created a new service on a few different runs of this particular model, this particular project. It's very easy to start a new service. Simply click the New Service button. You select which model you'd like. So we'll just go ahead and hit that shared one. If you've got different versions of that model run, you'd select your version here. We've just got one. And then you can go ahead and give it a name. I won't go ahead and deploy it because I've already got lots of deployed projects here. But then once you're ready to deploy for local inferencing, you simply hit the play button here, and it'll deploy your model for local inferencing. All right, well, that's how you navigate